Thors is one of the greatest soldiers in the Viking army, but has quickly realized that the life of war and battle yields nothing but horror. He protects his family, his wife Helga, daughter Ylva, and young enthusiastic son Torfinn. Everyone in his village looks up to him, as he tries to put his honor-filled life behind him. But life after war isn't as simple as it may seem. The harsh conditions of Iceland make it difficult to live, and the tales of a beautiful land, Vinland, give people hope. Our story starts in a gorgeous wheat field, where the sun is shining on Thors awaking from his nap. The camera pans as we get to see this landscape in all its beauty, and while taking it all in, the man's name is heard being called. It's Helga, his lovely wife, cradling a baby in her arms. Thors smiles, and begins to walk towards her but steps on something metal. Upon looking down, we see dead soldiers in a bloody mess as another man charges at Thors with a blade. Thors makes quick work of all these men, immediately establishing himself as an expert fighter. His companion takes out someone behind him. It's Thorkell the Tall, who wipes out multiple men with one swing. Using the collapsing sail as a bridge, Thors slashes down the last man. We now understand the scale of this battle, with dozens of burning ships in a wide open sea. Thorkell asks Thors why he was standing around earlier, but Thors responds he's fine as the two block a rain of arrows heading towards them. Thors explains that due to their formation being broken, they won't withstand the second wave, and orders Thorkell to push the front line forward while he himself makes sure they don't advance any further, sprinting ahead of Thorkell. Slashing down more men, Thors grabs a bow and takes out 3 more men on a further away boat, before jumping onto another boat and taking them out too. Hail starts to fall as Thors takes out the last man, who cries in front of him while apologizing to what we assume is his wife waiting for him. Despite being a mighty warrior, it's becoming clear that Thors' heart is not in it, as an arrow hits him due to his dropped guard. Disarmed from the next fighter, Thors takes them both into the ocean, where he starts getting choked. Thors takes the man's weapon, kills him with it, but instead of resurfacing, he drops the weapon and proceeds to swim away. He surfaces on a shore and escapes the flames of battle. We're cut to a scene of a young boy fetching water from a river. He walks the bucket home as farmers are plowing. Upon returning home, his sister asks him to feed the sheep and milk the cows, which the young boy reluctantly completes. Evening comes, and a man is telling children's stories about a voyage he journeyed in his youth. The young boy, Torfinn, eagerly listens with excitement. Through the harsh and rough seas, one day he finally made it to a new continent. Ripe fruit, rolling grasslands, he names the beautiful land Vinland. This man's name is Leif, and he is based on the real Viking sailor Leif Erikson, who was the first man to paint a course to what experts believe to now be North America. Ecstatic, the children have dozens of questions for him. He explains not only is it bigger than Iceland, but also warmer too, with green land as far as the eye can see. The headwear he currently has on is actually a gift from the natives that they met on that land. Suddenly, Thors returns home. Torfinn compliments Leif, who responds that the little man should join Leif on his travels when he's older. But the boy eagerly wants to join him now. Another child isn't so keen. He explains that his granddad said great monsters prowl the sea, devouring all ships that come near it, but Leif says that only proves his magnificence. The children playfully expose that Leif is simply a big child with a boat and mustache who can't handle himself in battle, which he doesn't refute. Leif shouts to Thors for the children to stop mocking him, and Thors decides to call it an evening. Suddenly, in the treacherous cold, a man is seen staggering towards the village. Leif explains to Thors the horrible conditions lately, and that people and livestock are freezing to death. Ylva comes through the door with 2 sheep, complaining about how cold it is. Leif offers to keep her warm, which the girl politely refuses. Acknowledging how rough the living conditions are here as well, Leif explains that his brother is thinking of migrating somewhere warmer. Who knows how far that is, he says, before stating how he made it back either way. Suddenly, in the sea we see the young boy again, Captain Torfinn, and he is giving orders with extreme enthusiasm. Until out of nowhere, his crew warn him of the dangerous creature, Jormungandr. Fearlessly ready to take on the creature, He begins being crushed as he awakes from his dream with his sister choking him in her sleep. Due to the cold, she invaded Thorfinn's bed, as he sees that his father, Thors, is still awake. His older sister says not to worry and go back to sleep. Shoveling snow off the roof, the daughter complains that they should buy more equipment to make this easier, but Thors explains that's not how they do things. Unfortunately, the young girl slips off the roof, luckily not injuring herself. However, she sees something is buried and frantically begins digging. It's the man who was staggering here earlier, with a slave collar on his neck. Torfinn is sitting near Leif, and asks him how much of the story was true. Offended, Leif says all of it was. Torfinn says he'll believe it if he sees it, and demands to accompany him on the journey. Leif explains that's not what believing something means, and if he's so eager he should tell his father to take him on the warship station over there. But Torfinn explains his father is too stingy to allow that. Leif corrects that his father is not stingy. He simply knows the danger of the sea. When migrating to Greenland, Leif was stranded around ice. They ran out of food, and ate ice to distract them from their hunger. All they could do was walk, until only Leif remained. And Torfinn wonders why they go through so much to live on a frozen block of ice in the middle of nowhere. Thors brings the frozen man in, telling his wife Helga to boil some water. Removing his clothes, his body is completely ridden with frostbite, along with scars. Trying to resuscitate the man, the daughter wonders whether the man is already dead, and says taking in a runaway slave will only cause them trouble. Answering Torfinn's question, Leif explains that their ancestors lived east in Norway, and the current generation fled here to Iceland. Norway, a land where the sea never freezes, is a fine land with great protection, until a man named Harald appeared. Conquering many villages with his army, he became the self-proclaimed king of the United Norway. He gave an ultimatum: pledge allegiance to the king, or leave Norway. Many were uncomfortable with his tyrannical rule, and fled here to Iceland. Angered by this story, Torfinn calls Leif a liar, since his father would never run away from such a situation. Barging through his home door to confront his father about the story, he sees him occupied with this man. Finally, the man gets his breath, and Thors asks for his name, but the man simply says he is too cold. Asking where he's from, the man begs not to be taken back to Halfdan, exposing that he traveled over the mountains to get here. The man cries, explaining how much he hated being there. Another man barges into the house. Halfdan has arrived at the village, and only Thors can deal with him. They're looking for the runaway slave. Halfdan explains that chains were made for humans. Not gold or silver, but iron chains. He asks the men if they have any idea where the slave might be, but one enthusiastic man claims Halfdan is just picking a fight before unsheathing his blade. It's explained that they constantly have issues with these men. Another man responds in fury, since he is the one who severed his arm in the last battle. People try to restrain the two men, but as the other draws his weapon, chains are sent around his blade as Halfdan proceeds to scar his face for breaking the law. Halfdan resumes his questioning, asking where the slave might be. The slave is in a daze, peacefully relaxing in a beautiful green land, as Thors tries to keep him conscious. The slave begins responding as if they were his mother and father, and how he's gravely missed them since they were all sold. Thors begins explaining that Vinland is real. Warm, green, and beautiful. Torfinn realizes the tales are true. Halfdan barges into the house, demanding the return of the slave as Torfinn is ushered away by his mother. The daughter tries to claim their innocence, but is interrupted by Thors asking for the price of the slave. 2 young sheep, Halfdan responds, and Thors immediately offers 3 instead. Halfdan refuses, as he needs to make an example of him. How about 4 then, he responds. Halfdan silences his army man and says 8 sheep instead. Thors accepts without hesitation. 8 sheep for a dead man, Halfdan cannot refuse. Torfinn spectates in disbelief. Ylva is angry and sad. They traded 8 sheep for that man, who immediately died. Torfinn finally asks if they truly fled here. Thors responds yes, that is the story. Torfinn then asks if somebody were to run away from here, where would they go? As Thors simply pats him on his head. An army is shown, with a scarred general leading them, while foreshadowing a chest with daggers locked inside. Is this army heading towards their village? Subscribe to find out in the next recap. This has been King Cap Anime. Vinland Saga is a great action-based anime, based on the true stories of the Vikings in the 11th century. I'll see you in the next one, Kings.